Hey folks, I've got the text opened here to page 33 in chapter 2, and I hope you can see this. I can't really tell, it's pretty small, but they start out this section by giving you some examples, poor examples and good examples of writing rhythms, in particular time signatures. As we discussed in class, and we'll continue to work on this, we don't want to ever obscure the beat, obscure where beats are separated within a measure of music. And that's why it's first important to know how to identify what the beat note is when given a particular time signature. That's not just some exercise we worked out for chapter 2 and then you move on with your life and never use it. No, you use it every single time. Every time you write a piece of music, every time you're looking at music, you want to know what the beat note is. So this first example they give us is in 3/4 time. And then the rhythm that's written is an eighth note and then a half rest and then another eighth note. Now granted, everything adds up to 3/4 notes worth of stuff, but it's very difficult to see where the beats are. It'd be very difficult to count 1, 2, 3 through this. And so they've rewritten that. The musical outcome is exactly the same here in the correct column. What you're going to hear is exactly the same as it was here, but it's easier to see the beats. Here's beat 1. Can I even no, I guess I can't. Beat 1 is this eighth note and eighth rest. Beat 2 is this quarter rest. Beat 3 is this eighth rest and eighth note together. 3 clearly shown beats. 3/8 time. That's a simple triple meter. Sorry, I gotta take a little sip of coffee here. Simple triple meter, and the eighth note is the beat note. Well, the way they've written the rhythm here, all 16th notes, but then beamed together into 2 groups of 3, again, it's very difficult to see the beat note, the eighth note value. So we look over here, and they've rewritten, again, same notes, same outcome. It's what you're going to hear, but much easier to see. You can count 1, 2, 3. Very difficult to count 1, 2, 3 here. Here's a compound meter. This is where things get even more complicated because remember, we're dealing with dotted note beat notes. 12/16 time, groups of 3 16th notes make a beat. Remember, the bottom number gives you the duration or the subdivision of the beat. Combine those to make a beat note. So 3 16th notes make a beat. You combine those together, that's the length of a dotted eighth note for a single beat. And so right out of the gate, here's a quarter note. That's longer than a dotted eighth. A quarter note has 4 16th notes worth of stuff. So already, if I'm counting 1, 2, beat 2 is starting somewhere toward the end of this quarter note, I've already lost track. It's almost impossible to count 12/16 time the way they've written this rhythm. Here's again the same musical outcome. We're going to hear the same thing, but the music has been broken up in certain spots, like this quarter note. We're talking about how this quarter note is longer than a beat. Well, now we've taken a chunk off of that quarter note and put it into beat 2 and identified beat 1 as a dotted eighth, which is now tied to an eighth note. You might say, well, wait a second. We only needed another 16th note to finish that quarter note, right? True, but look, it was already tied to another 16th note. So the musical length of this musical event right here is 4 plus 1, 5 16th notes worth of stuff. Again, this sounds to the ear as a single musical event. 5 16th notes. I look over here, and we've broken off 3 of those to make the dotted eighth, and then tied it to 2 of those to make this eighth note. So there's the length of that event is still 5/16. but it's much easier to tap your foot here and here. And continuing on, we've broken the beam here, beamed these together, and then separated out for beat 4, 3/16 notes. So now each one of these separate visual blocks of information is the length of a single beat. You can't say that about any of these individual blocks on the left side in 12/16 time, but everything on the right side. Each little chunk, this dotted eighth, this eighth beamed to a 16th, this eighth beamed to a 16th, and these 3/16. Each one is the length of one beat, either a dotted eighth or 3/16, means the same thing. Last one, 4/2 time. The half note gets the beat. This is simple quadruple time. Half note gets the beat. And again, we're looking for half note chunks of things. And I see one over here. There's a half note chunk. So that beat 4 is very clear, but everything else is really obscured. A half note is the length of 2 quarter notes. Here's a dotted quarter and then another quarter note. So this dotted quarter is worth 1.5 quarters. So we would have to pull a half of a quarter note off of this and connect it to this. And that would make a half note. And that's what they did over here. There's a half note. They combined these two. However, that made it longer than a half note. So if we count, let's count how many eighth notes there are in this event, this musical event. And again, to the ear, 2 tied notes sounds like one long note. That's the actual musical outcome of this notation. So this is a long note that's the length of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighth notes. Well, if half note gets the beat, how many eighth notes are there in a half note? Tick, tock, tick, tock. How many eighths in a half note? 4. So if this musical event is 5 eighth notes long, but the beat is 4 eighth notes, then, looking over here now, you need to show 4 of those eighth notes with a single half note and then tie it to the 5th eighth note. Again, the musical output, what the listener hears, is the same whether it's here or here, but this is much easier to read. I can tap my foot here, tap my foot here, tap my foot here. Look at beat 3. Beat 3 is a dotted quarter and an eighth. Okay, and then beat 4 is this half note. All right, super important. I'm going to go ahead and close this video up, and let's do one more, and we'll go through some of these examples similar to what you're doing in your homework. All righty, see you in a minute.